Huh. Hello again. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our today's video cast. Today we have a pleasure of meeting Jan Albers from Luštica Bay. We are extremely grateful to have you here, Jan. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Our pleasure. And we also have Nera Andrijašević, one of the best students of the senior generations, hospitality students at RIT Croatia, who will be conducting this interview today. So without further ado, Nera, can you please take it away? The microphone is yours.
Yes, sure. Yeah, thank you, Professor. Thank you, Mr. Albers, again for being with us today. I hope that this discussion will be very intense and that we will have a lot of questions for you and that you will have a lot of descriptive answers for us. We prepared some questions that are mostly hospitality related. Of course, in particular related to luxury industry that you are part of. So I would like to start. So as you were born and raised in Germany from Dutch father and Croatian mother, am I right?
Yes, you are. Actually, my father is from Friesland, which is in north of Germany. So he's actually also German, but very close. I mean, we were all very close to the Dutch border always. So.
Great. But eventually, I mean, you ended up being in this part of the world, so Croatia and Mediterranean. So could you tell us, please, how it all started, the idea of you coming to this part, working here, and being part of hospitality sector in the Mediterranean?
Actually, this is all my father's fault, because he is from hospitality as well, similar to your family background probably. And I was more or less born and raised not only in Germany, but in hotels. So my father was working in hotels himself, and actually me growing up, besides a certain period where everyone wants to be a firefighter or a pilot, I actually only saw my future in the hotel business or in the hospitality business. Once I grew older and, once it came to making a decision where my career path goes, my father just had one wish for me. He asked me to please not do the same like he is doing, but to pursue studies first. And if I still want to go in hospitality, I can still do that. I did not really understand why he meant it, but I do now in hindsight, because obviously me growing up, and maybe you are familiar with that as well, it is actually a very, very demanding business. It is incredibly rewarding, which is, I believe, one of the main drivers for the majority of our colleagues to be in that business. It's incredibly rewarding on a daily basis, but it's also very, very demanding. And he was always concerned that I will lose a lot of time seeing my own family one day growing up, being in this business, and it is a very hard business to find work and life balance. Regardless of that, I didn't listen properly. I ended up in that business, thankfully, and I can still not picture a better business for myself. And in that period, being half Croatian as well, I always realized that because we have not spoken a hell of a lot of Croatian at home, it was mostly German. And I never managed to come across the small talk phase of Croatian growing up. So I always had a wish to move to Croatia one day, not only for my career, to pursue my career, which obviously hospitality is very helpful in that regards. If you are in that business, it's much easier to travel and to work around the globe, but also to learn my mother tongue in a proper way. So I wouldn't say I succeeded 100% in that, but at least I can communicate in a much better way than 10 years ago when I was very proud of myself to order ice cream. Now I can actually do more complex tasks, so which I'm very, very happy about. On the way doing that, and being here, and the longer I was here, I can actually not really describe in words what happened to me. Every time when I went on a business trip or when I went on holiday or whatever, and I came back and the aircraft door opened in Split Airport, and I got this fresh breeze of the Mediterranean, regardless if it was summer, winter, autumn, spring, whatever. I had a strong feeling of home, you know, and that is something which till today gives me goosebumps. Actually, if I think about it, you know, I enjoyed. I was working and living on the island of Malta. I was working and living all across Germany in the end of the day, so I've seen a lot, but I never felt this feeling of home coming somewhere. So, which is something which has developed very strongly in my time in Croatia. And I found my beautiful better half, who's outsmarting me every day, which is my Croatian wife. And I had also the utmost pleasure and experience to be able to see our little daughter growing up in this area, which I believe is a beautiful area to grow up. It's a very safe place. The weather obviously takes its part, but I can see our daughter playing on the street, all these kinds of things which I was used to in my youth, but it's not necessarily that omnipresent anymore in continental Europe in all areas, you know, let it be a city or whatever. So I'm actually very grateful of having found my home here, which is also why I am in this region now for an incredible amount of 10 years now. So it's actually time is flying incredibly fast. Yeah.
Right. So you didn't regret coming, as I can see.
No, not in the contrary. I think it was the best decision ever, actually.
Great. Right. So you have been working here in this region in many towns. For example, in Split, as I can see, and then the island Korčula, and now in the end Luštica Bay. So this region has been known for beautiful beaches, beautiful sites. I mean, cultural. But let's say in the close future, where do you see it on the strategic or on the hospitality map globally?
Look, actually, when I arrived here and my first hotel in Croatia in Split was the Radisson Blu Resort in Split. It was a completely different marketplace than it is today. I mean, I remember vividly back then, there was literally no branded hotel in Split. Of course, there's a Meridian in Podstrana, but in Split itself, there was actually only a little Best Western back then, which was not really on the map for international travelers. Because of that, in the end of the day, one of the reasons was that the first years were very successful. The thing about Croatia, I believe in general, and even more now for the entire region, because of the situation we are all in, is that we need to put actually the beauty of this country, meaning Croatia and Montenegro, as much as Slovenia for that matter, back on the map of people. You know, so it's I believe a lot has to be focused also strategically, regardless of the segment, on outdoor activities, on the beauty of the nature. And I believe it has to be a key issue for the countries to preserve that beauty and to properly work with that beauty. I'm thinking of regenerative energy, of sustainable energy, which is all things which we need to and can implement in our hotels. It is related to a lot of costs, and you know, the hotel business, as much as any other business, always looks at the return of investment. But nevertheless, it's also about being able to tell a proper story. And nowadays, I think, and I love my dear friend Zoran on Hva for that word. It's not only about mindful luxury, it's about mindful experiences as well. And if we are able to tell a story as hoteliers, as much as a country, and that's coming back to your question, I believe it has to be mindful and sustainable tourism. And I think if there's one lesson which I hope we have all learned this year, is that mass tourism and tourism which is potentially destroying the beauty of places. Look at Dubrovnik 2 years ago with 6 cruise liners on one day. Look at Kotor last year with 3 or 4 cruise liners on one day. I'm not saying that the business itself is not good, meaning the cruise liner business. Of course, it's a good business and it helps developing, but it has to be put into measures and into processes which are feeding the purpose of mindful tourism, if I may say it like this. And that is, I believe, a strategy as well, which needs to be in the minds of the strategic leaders of each country in our beautiful region.
Yes, yes, of course. I mean, I think I would like to add on. I mean, Dubrovnik has a beautiful potential, but then eventually it's like not using it properly, maybe in that sense, because due to cruise ships and all the pollution and not acting sustainable in that sense, it is kind of wasting that potential that might be used, as you said, in a luxury segment. So maybe in the future something will change due to this situation, but we will see what's coming next. So I would like to continue and basically talk a bit about the definition of luxury, because this is something that we have been discussing in our luxury concentration courses, this being the third one in a row. So basically, we have learned so far that luxury is very different from the context in which it occurs. So basically, from the time to time, and also the conclusion is it is different from people around the world and from person to person. So the question for you would be, how would you define luxury in today's day and age, and what do you find luxurious, and what would that be an example of?
I think you said it already quite rightly. I think luxury is in the eye of every individual completely different, right? To give you one example or two out of my personal experience, there is people who define having time as luxury, as simple as that, you know. And I have learned that you looked and checked what I did in my past. So one of the things I did in my past was connecting the islands with the mainland in Croatia with seaplanes. So that exactly gives people time, you know. So meaning instead of spending 5 or 6 hours coming to a ferry port, taking the ferry, going to Lastovo, for example, we were flying our dear passengers in 30 minutes to Lastovo with a short pit stop in Vela Luka. And for a lot of people, time is an essence of luxury as well. For me and for us here, we define luxury fairly different than you might know from a grand hotel type of concept. We define luxury as an active lifestyle. We define luxury in a contemporary way. We define luxury in an easygoing, but yet, of course, upscale way. You know, we have a lot of guests here and also homeowners who have bought property in our development, who actually have 24/7 wearing a tie and wearing a suit, and are actually really looking forward to come to an environment where they do not see that anymore. You know, where they enjoy obviously a very good food, where they enjoy a very good service excellence on the guest, in the restaurant, in the spa, at the beach, all the facilities we offer, but not having it in, and excuse my my word for it, not having it in a stiff way. A lot of people have luxury when they think about luxury. Have it in a stiff environment, picture it in a stiff environment. We do the exact opposite. We believe that our luxury is, and then for the lack of a better word as well, more going into the easygoing direction, supporting active lifestyles, meaning sport activities, hiking, biking, e-biking, sailing, diving, stand-up paddleboarding, kayaking, all these kind of things which we can combine and do in our nature in front of our doors. You know, coming back to what we spoke about a couple of minutes ago, that is how we define luxury. So I believe actually that luxury has fairly different angles, and that depends very much on the individual and what he or she is looking for. So in our case, as mentioned, it's easygoing and an active lifestyle. Others define luxury with a bit of, and then excuse me again, bling bling, which can be as well very luxury for many people. And that depends in many ways on the individual, but also on the feeder markets where this business is coming from. I believe it's a mix of a lot of things which come into play in that regards.
Yes, yes. Well, of course, I mean, I would like again to add, because this is something that we mentioned in our classes. So basically, if you look at the restaurant industry, how it changed, I mean, the way that people dressed back then, I mean, tie and everything, and too formal, I would say. And today, on the other hand, professor will know definitely what I'm talking about, casualization of fine dining, and that concept is really like something else, because as you said, the time is what people think as is luxury today, actually.
I agree with you. Look, I mean, if you think about 10, 15 or 20 years ago, and this is a very good example what you just mentioned, the restaurant business, you were, as soon as you came to a certain level, let it be on a price or how that restaurant defined itself, it was all about cloche service, so you come with the dish and then it's presented right on the table itself. And that still exists today. I'm not saying that this is not there anymore. But to give you an example as well, to me and to us here, luxury can mean as well that you have been in our restaurant 3 weeks ago and you have ordered 3 courses, burrata from Luštica here locally as a starter. You had lamb from the inland of Montenegro as a main course, and you finished it with, for example, tiramisu. Yeah? So you did this and you come 3 weeks later to our very restaurant and the waiter remembers you. And he remembers the wine you had on that evening. And you sit there as a guest and you remember that wine I had? And it was like, yes, actually, I do remember. You had this and this wine. So this is also luxury. Not for everyone, but this is the service excellence which we are aiming for example, here in the Chedi.
Right, right. As we just touched upon the property that you are currently working at, I would like that if you could tell us more about it and why is it so special, except for the component that you already mentioned, F&B.
Yeah. Well, look, actually here we have to look at it at the bigger picture, and I invite you to come here whenever you feel comfortable to travel as well down here. Take everyone with you, as many people as you would like. This here is actually one of the biggest projects in Southeast Europe, and we are not only developing or did develop a hotel here with the Chedi, we are actually developing a town. And that town is called Luštica Bay as a total. It spans over 7 million square meters, the entire project, and it consists of various areas. So the first area which is actually developed is the Marina Village, and we as a Chedi are the anchor project of that Marina Village, which is also comprising of more than 200 villas, townhouses, and apartments surrounding us. So this all has been developed in a joint venture of Orascom Development, our mother company, which is doing town developments not only here but also in Egypt, in El Guna, which is our mothership, so to say, in Salalah, Havana, in Oman, in Jebel Sifa in Oman, and also in Switzerland and Andermatt. And we also have a project in Cornwall in Great Britain. That means we are actually developing destinations and towns. So it's a much, much bigger picture. But what I love not only about our company, but also in particular here about this project is that it is a greenfield project, which means that we developed here something which is actually naturally going into the environment. So we don't want to develop something, and we never want to develop something, not only here, which does not fit the environment and which is not sustainable as itself. That means when you come here to Luštica and when you see the Marina Village as the first completed part of our project, almost completed, it only is 5% of the entire project, but the first area which is finished. You will see Mediterranean architecture. You will see the colors of the Mediterranean, lavender, for example, blue, green, all the colors you would picture in the Mediterranean coming from here, but also getting here on a holiday or vacation destination. So it's new, yes, but it's incredibly authentic. And I think that is something which is a big, big differentiator for us to other or comparable projects, not only in the region, but actually in the world. To give you a concrete example, if you come from the seaside, and we are obviously here on the open Adriatic Sea, and you look to Luštica coming with a sailing boat or with a motor yacht or whatever, you actually will not be able to realize that this is a relatively new development, because the love of detail we put into this project goes so far that we have used different tiles on the roofs of each building. So it looks very much like being naturally built in a certain way, which I believe is an absolutely beautiful way of putting a new development together. The Chedi itself is the anchor project. So I don't know how much you are familiar with the brand Chedi, but this is a lot about service excellence. It's a lot about being incredibly authentic to the destination where the hotel is. That is all something which sounds, I'm sure, very familiar to you, because that is now in the last 3, 4, 5 years, I think, a topic for every hotel development or every development out there. You have to be authentic to the destination. Authenticity is very much everywhere. GHM, the company which has invented the brand, the Chedi, came up with that 20 years ago. And 20 years ago, I'm sure, Domaka, you can confirm that as well. Authenticity was not really on top of everyone's thoughts. What back then was important was actually that everything has to be equal. I want to book the Hilton, the Marriott's, the Radissons, and the Le Meridians in this world. And no matter where I go, I want to have the same service, the same experience, the same food, everything the same. And there are some companies doing that until today, very successful. But when it comes to the luxury segment, and that's where we are, where we were talking about before as well, I think that an authentic experience is incredibly important. And that is what we do here in the Chedi. So in the scope of that big project I just mentioned, and being the anchor project here, and we are the first hotel which opened in Luštica Bay, focusing on an active lifestyle and on a contemporary luxury, I believe makes that place here very, very special. This goes further, obviously. We are now working on a second area, which we call Central, which is up the hill here in Luštica. We are directly at the sea with the marina. Up the hill, we call our new village center Central, which is we have already started building. We have a couple of buildings finished. But up there, for example, will be retailers, shopping facilities, more than we have in the Marina Village. Up there will be a doctor or doctors or pharmacy. There might be a school in the future. There might be sport facilities in the future. We're looking into developing tennis and other recreational facilities up there. We have a golf course in development, which will be the first one in the region. And I know you in Dubrovnik have a very famous golf development, which is not taking off the ground. Thankfully here we are taking off now, and I believe it will be an absolutely stunning project, because it's on top of our hill, on the tip of the mountain. And on one side you can enjoy the endless views to the Adriatic Sea, and on the other side you can see and enjoy the views of Boca Bay. It's an incredible location, absolutely stunning. Really, every time I go there, I'm like amazed by the beauty of it, and I'm sure that will transform into an exciting place for golf tourism as well. And obviously up there we will have real estate supporting that golf development as much as also a golf resort or golf hotel. So in total, actually, we are planning to build here more than 2,000 more apartments and villas and townhouses, more than seven to eight hotels more than we have now with one. So we are actually turning this not only into a touristic destination, we want to turn it into, and that is the slogan of our company, life as it should be. And obviously in the Mediterranean. So that is why I believe the Chedi here is so exciting. Not only the Chedi, but the entire project is exciting.
Yes, so as I can see, you said at the end, so this is basically like a building a destination.
Yes,
right?
That's right. That's right. And I don't want to make us here in the hospitality business smaller than we are, but in the end of the day, here we are a facilitator. What do I mean with that? I mean that we actually support the destination to become a living entity, so to speak. Yeah. So the hotel brings people, the hotel brings life to a destination, and because of that, the entire destination feels more like a living town. This is very important in the beginning, but also obviously down the road. So the real estate business, meaning building and developing apartments, villas, and townhouses is actually very much the focus of our company. But by now, Orascom Hotel Management, so our hospitality arm, has 32 hotels in operation and a couple in pipeline, all of them obviously in our destinations, which I think is already quite a good number. We use a lot of brands actually, not only the Chedi. We have, for example, a Mövenpick and a Steigenberger in Alguna as a brand. We have a Radisson brand in branded hotel in Andermatt, and so on and so forth. So we are not limiting ourselves to any brands. It has always to fit in the entire concept. And here, as mentioned, the first one, thankfully, is a Chedi, and that's why I'm here.
Yeah, so thank you for this very detailed explanation on this topic. And this is actually the introduction to the next question that is related to technology and digitalization. Well, at the same time, this building and this destination building actually wouldn't be possible without technology and everything. And this is where we can see the digitalization being very much implemented in hospitality industry as well. So we were looking at the project that you had in Luštica, and this is somewhat called, I guess, room order. And we would like it to be further a bit explained. Why did you choose this project? Why do you think this is important? And what did you try to achieve with this project?
This is actually, it's a great topic, and actually I would like you, if you don't mind, to keep in touch with me even afterwards, because if you discuss this and if you hear something, it's a lot about sharing ideas as well, and sometimes you don't see the forest because you have a tree in front of you. So I would really like us to stay in touch in that regards as well. The point of room orders, and that's one thing we are doing here. Is actually, I'm sure that a lot of hotel companies, a lot of associations, a lot of hotels for themselves have developed in the past an application on their mobile phones, which you can download as a guest on a mobile phone or on your tablet or on whatever mobile device you are using in order to be sort of connected with the resort or with the hotel. What we have realized, and it might go a bit more into that direction in the future as well, but this will only the future tell. But I believe that a lot of users find it not really convenient to download for each and every hotel a separate application. So if you are a frequent traveler, you can easily end up having 10, 15 or 20 applications on your mobile phone with a lot of hotels. And this can, take up space. But most importantly, it's not convenient. So we tried to come up with different concepts to approach our guests in different ways. and to get engagement in a convenient way and in a pleasant way for our guests in many ways, not only related to room service, for example, which we will come to in a second, but also in any other ways. To be more specific, related to your question, room orders is exactly avoiding that. So you don't need to have a downloaded application to work with it. You actually just have to scan a QR code, which we can have and we have visible in our restaurants, but also in our public areas and in our rooms. So you can basically scan that QR code and you come to a page automatically hyperlinked and you can order, for example, food. Not only food, you can ask for other things as well, but obviously room orders, preliminary idea was the food and beverage orders from the rooms. We took it one step further here in Luštica because we not only integrated the Chedi as a hotel with room orders, but also the destination, meaning the apartments in the rental pool here in the destination are also integrated in room orders and can order from our food and beverage facilities and outlets, and also all the yachts in the marina who are anchored in the marina can order through that business. So it's more about enabling people and enabling guests and residents to order and use your services in a convenient way. That is the idea of room orders, that what you mentioned before. We have one more tool in our Chedi, which is a SweetPad. Are you familiar with that technology?
No.
Not really.
So SweetPad basically is a tablet, like the usual tablet size, and it replaced all guest communication we usually would have through papers. Yeah, so meaning we have a guest welcome letter, a guest information of a change of opening hours, or a guest information if something is happening in the destination, a live event, whatever, which usually would go through a lot of paper into each and every room. We have all of this in a SweetPad, which is a tablet, and this is based in all rooms. Yeah? So you have all the information you need from your hotel in that digital form in front of you in your room, rather than a lot of paper. That is also environmentally friendly, I believe, because we are not printing 1,000 pages anymore every day. You have all the information there, including, and that is, I believe, here for us very important, as we put active lifestyle a lot on our front page, is what we call an experience guide, meaning we have all the information of what you can do in Luštica and what you can do to plan your day in Luštica, other than going to the beach, for example. Is all of this is in the tablet, in this SweetPad, meaning you can rent a kayak, you can rent an e-bike, you can plan a day excursion, you can ask the concierge to book it for you, or of course you can at any time also pick up the phone and call. But we have realized that there's a lot of engagement, and I'm sure you can confirm that all of a sudden, when you have the technology available, you actually want to sometimes send only an instant message to front office to ask for something, and you expect an answer. It's not so much anymore that you actually need to or want to pick up the phone and call someone. It's a lot about instant messaging and the integration of it as well. And there are a lot of things which this SweetPad is giving our guests in the rooms. Coming back to room orders and room service, by the way, that is something which you can also additionally order through these tablets, and combined our room orders and our room service revenue tripled ever since we introduced that technology. So obviously there is it is a revenue generating thing as well. So people and guests like that convenience that they can use a tablet or their mobile phone, and the food will come to the room. This is very interesting for us to see that as well, that we all of a sudden have that engagement which is helping us as well, not only from a revenue perspective, but obviously also from a guest experience perspective, which is at the center of all of our plans. Talking a bit more about technology, if you don't mind, because that is really something which is always in my head. And we actually recently formed something like a future committee in our organization, which we are looking into how we as a hospitality business are growing and what we should actually do. And I think we as hospitality business, without getting and becoming too technical, because obviously the personal touch remains, I believe, very, very important. But actually we are, and if we are very honest to each other, we are a people's business. Hospitality is all about people. However, we are somehow still stuck in the history of our business as well. What do I mean with that? To give you a concrete example, every hotel, on let's say 99% of all the hotels in this world, are having, when you come in, a reception. So now I'm not questioning the reception, but in the end of the day, it's only a point of transaction. Meaning you as a guest, you come to that place, you check in, you get some information granted, and you get your key card, and then the rooming starts. Meaning either you go yourself to the room, or you are being roomed, like in our case, also a point of luxury. We are accompanying you to the room. We give you information in the room. We explain the room and everything to you and so on. But it remains only a point of transaction for the majority of the hotels. And unfortunately, at the end of your stay, that is also where you have to leave some money. So one of the last experiences you have as a guest is actually at this point of transaction that you have to pay the bill. So I believe, and I strongly believe that we as hospitality business actually need to look into how we create lobby areas and how we create welcoming areas and reception areas. That doesn't fit to every hotel model and every hotel business, but I think that the lobby area has to turn much more into a living room type of style, and has to become a point of meeting, has to become the center of where actually you as a guest want to spend your time as well. And that is not very often the case. If you go and travel for yourself as well, and you come into a lobby, you see the reception, you do your business at the reception, but do you really want to spend time in the lobby? Or is it only for your impression, you get your key card or whatever, or you have to pass through to go out and in and these kind of things? So it's very much an area which I believe has to be reinvented and has to be utilized in a very different manner. And here, by the way, and you have to come to see it, we want to have it more as a living room actually, than only as a hotel lobby. But the reception area, for example, is one of the areas which I believe has to be something reinvented in certain ways. It can be a combination of a bar, for example, and there are obviously certain concepts which are doing it already. But I really think that it has to be much more than only a point of transaction, which is not ideal, I think. Another thing is, and that is also technology, however, we as being a people's industry in hospitality, we are not making use of the technology which is out there and which could potentially serve us. Now, we mentioned here, yes, we have suite beds and we have room orders as a system, but I think that the future has to be thought of way more outside of the box for all of us. To give you an example, the car industry and all the car producers in this world, they are not a people's industry. They are producing, and a lot of them produce in mass, and their focus is something very different. And actually what these things you're buying are doing is they bring you from A to B. So it's a matter of transportation actually. But what the majority of these car producers, in particular in the luxury segment, are doing today is, I think, something we as a hospitality industry can learn a lot from. So now that might sound weird, but let me elaborate a bit further. If you buy a new BMW today, or you buy a new Audi, or you buy a new Tesla, and Tesla is very good in that, you get an application on your phone. And you can tell your car, when I come to you, I would like you to be on 21 degrees Fahrenheit, Celsius. I want you to be preheated. I want to have my seat heating on. I want to have this. I want to have that. All of this you can tell your car, but you cannot tell your hotel. You know, that would confuse a lot of a lot of hoteliers. If someone calls you and would say like, hold on a second, I would like to, because I like being in the fridge when I'm at home, so I would like to be in my hotel room when I come on 17 degrees. Technically, that's possible. All the hotels which have air conditioning units will be able to put your room on a certain temperature. It can be 17 degrees, and other people may not even like air conditioning unit and ask you to switch it off. So that might also be, you know, weird for some people thinking about it. But, you know, some people like it on 27 degrees when it's July or August. You know, it doesn't have to be on 21 degrees. But we as hoteliers, we always think like, no, no, no. So the guest arrives. So for cost-saving initiatives, this room is on an inspected status on 23 or 24 degrees. As soon as a guest is checking in or on the day of arrival, we tell our systems, and then again, the technology is already there, to put it down to 21 or 22 degrees, right? So, and I'm not talking here about the Chedi, I'm talking in general about our business. So I think that we can actually learn a lot from the technology and integrate technology, which is there already from other businesses. And then as an example, the car producers of this world in a luxury segment. I hope that makes some sense to you as well, listening to it. But this is something which I really strongly believe we as a people's industry need to think way more outside of the box. How can we integrate the systems we have already in a meaningful way, in an easy way, to make it more pleasant and a better guest experience? So the majority of the guests, then again, will not actually realize what we are doing, but they will come back because of it. You know what I mean? So, you know, it's just like, it's a seamless integration of it. And the seamless integration of 10 different things will make you come back to that specific place. You know, another example is mini bars, which are beautifully convenient, but we actually are very convinced, and in general as well, that we know exactly what the guest wants to eat and wants to drink, right? Because we put everything in these mini bars already beforehand.
Right.
Maybe we have guests who don't want this. You know, maybe we have guests who want something completely else, and we have the technology, and we have usually 99% of the demands also available, but we are only reacting as hospitality industry. We are not acting. Meaning, once the guest is in the hotel, we give him what he needs, and we think we have done a fantastic job, and usually we did it. But having it in place, even before the guest asks, with technology and with the knowledge we have at hand, but which we are not using, that would make a huge difference, I believe. And that, I believe, is also something which we need to focus on in the future.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the question that is actually next, you have already partially answered, but okay, I will still ask it because maybe there is still that you want to add on because, due to technology, people are really, I mean, the older routine daily has changed, and especially in the hospitality context. And if we see how the companies are integrating technology to enhance the guest experience, as you already said, we still need employees and we still need the human hand and human touch. And how do we actually balance between the two? This is the first part of the question, and the second part of the question is the consequence of technology. And this is something that we mentioned at the beginning at Basma Resort. This concept of mindful luxury, again, that is basically the new need that is merging in the market, need for self-actualization. So basically, this demand is coming up strongly to the luxury segment. The question for you in this sense would be, how big is currently the demand for this self-actualization? And where do you see it like in the future? Do you see it coming to this region? And is it on your strategic map as a part of the Chedi Luštica Bay?
Okay, yeah, my apologies that I took the last question a bit too far.
No
But
problem at all.
the thing is that what I mentioned before as well, I think it's incredibly important to keep a balance of technology, and what I mentioned before is it has to be integrated seamlessly. As soon as the guest feels there's a burden for me to use certain technologies, there's a burden and it's not convenient anymore, then it's not helpful anymore either. As an example, the application of hotels, which you have to download or whatever, and then you end up with 15 applications because you are a frequent traveler, which also happens in the luxury business because the majority of our guests are very frequent travelers in a normal year. Coming to the Maslina resort, I must say I've visited Zoran about 3 weeks ago. I've heard a lot about this hotel before. We were talking about it before, and this is spot on. I cannot express actually what happened to me when I visited that place, but I can tell you I couldn't sleep. And I told Zoran that I couldn't sleep because it was so well thought through and thought after. There is something which I love, and not only one thing, but to start, you come to that place and you have a seamless integration from the nature and the hotel development itself. So it doesn't feel like it was just recently built. Similar to what we have here as well with the Chedi, what I mentioned before, but obviously a bit more in an island environment in Starigrad at the Maslina resorts. And it's very much integrated into the nature, and it's very much integrated conceptually into nature and the surroundings, meaning even the soap and the amenities in the bathroom are organically are from the island. So it's an entire story they are able to tell. If you ask for it as a guest or not, you can just feel it, that people put a lot of emotion and a lot of passion into it. You have the reception, which is, I don't know, weighing how many tons, but it's from the neighboring island of Brač, so it's like really a complete story in terracotta, in the nature of Hvar as an island, and using wherever possible sustainable ingredients, hardware-wise, meaning building-wise, but also software-wise. As an example, the the bathroom amenities. So it's really a cool story with an organic garden around the corner. I really enjoyed being there and seeing that project, and I'm sure that it's actually fitting in the needs of today. Which is not, which is actually redefining in a certain way authenticity. So authenticity can be many things. But it has to match the story you are telling. So it cannot only be that you have the architecture of the area. It cannot only be that you have the food of the area. It has to be really in every corner of what you have in front of you. It's you can cook regionally, but the ingredients you put on the plate, are they regionally as well, or have they been imported? From tomatoes from Holland, or olive oils from Italy, although you are in Croatia. So all these things you don't know as a guest, but you can feel if someone is putting this effort in, and the Maslina resort, and you would see it here as well when you come to us, because we use a lot of local ingredients, which I think is very important. So yes, I believe there is a big need for mindful luxury. And putting authenticity on a very new level, and it's a lot about storytelling as well. I think that in the end of the day, we are all driven by emotions. There's no purchase in this world which is not driven by emotions. But we in hospitality have the beauty of when we trigger the right emotions, that our guests are coming back, and that's what we want. So it has to be honest. It has to be an honest product as well, and authenticity to 99.9% is all about honesty as well, and integrating the local environment, the local economy, and the local community. And that is something which the Maslina Resort in Hvar has done beautifully, and is something we have a big focus on here as well. Using local ingredients, having the local community as part of our business case as well, and things like that. So yes, I believe there's a very big need for looking into this further. There's a big need for our area to look into that. You know, once what we mentioned in the beginning of our meeting today and of our joint Zoom call, it's not only about mass tourism, and I don't think actually that this region can be and should be a location for mass tourism. It's about feasible luxury tourism, upper upscale tourism, which will be able to help this area to develop, which will help the economy to develop, and which will help, and this is the most important thing, to preserve the nature and to preserve the beauty of this area and of this region, not only for us, but for our children and for our guests who come and visit here.
Well, definitely, I have to agree. I mean, I hope that we will see many other resorts as Muslim resort here in the vicinity, because the concept is just phenomenal, as I heard about it. So the next question is on something that is taking place worldwide in the last couple of months. Of course, the Corona crisis. Well, it hit all the industries. I mean, but in particular hospitality industry, because as we say, travel is something that we don't have to do. That is not the basic need. So all hotels were hit, hotel companies, airlines, not to mention the tour operators. But what would be some lessons that we could learn from this Corona crisis, and in particular in the luxury segment, and how it is going to shape the future that is ahead of us?
First of all, from a business planning perspective, I think we have learned so far, and we have to learn in the future as well, to be way more flexible in our business planning. Yeah, meaning I think it will become in the future more and more difficult to do a budget for an entire full year in October or in September, like which is a very usual thing in all hospitality businesses, including our own. Regardless of that, I think that a zero-base business approach has to become normal, and is potentially already normal for many hospitality businesses, meaning to really look into what is making sense in our business. Where do we have revenue potential? Where do we have costs? Which costs can we optimize in a good way? And it goes hand in hand also with the things we have discussed before. It's not all about cost saving, you know. So if you want to make money, you have to invest money, and you have to invest money in the right things. And I'm sure, for example, that the soap and the bathroom amenities the Maslina resort is using are way more expensive than the average bathroom amenities you would find somewhere else, although, and albeit, they come actually only from a couple of kilometers away. But there's a mastery involved in it to make it happen. There is an incredible quality involved to make it happen, because it's done locally and things like that. So it's not all about cost saving, but it's about the proper planning of it as well. And what is actually essential for your business. Because if you have a hotel open for a lot of time, not only for 1 or 2 years, but for 10 years, you take certain things for granted. And that's why I think that a zero-based approach to a business and to a budget process is essential. You have to really look into every field of your business to see what is actually really making sense for my business and what will bring my business further. I think that a rolling forecast, so to speak, meaning to really look at your hotel from a month-to-month basis, and maybe do a bit more detailed forecasting for 3 months forthcoming, is making way more sense than the traditional budgeting what we are used to from the past. Yeah? So we have to become way more flexible, all of us, I think, all the businesses, not only hotel business, to be able to master the challenges we might be having in the future. Coming back to the situation we're all in with COVID-19, I think, and I hope actually, it's at least something which I'm living here every day, that we all become more humble, more human, and more a community which is helping each other, rather than thinking of how we can make the big next euro or dollar in this world. I think that's very romantic for me to think that this will happen, but still it's up in all of us to make it happen and to put it into place. And I hope really that our community will change in that regards. And also, and I think we have seen that the environment takes back certain areas, you know. So all of a sudden in Venice, you were able to see fishes in the channels. You were able to see even dolphins in the channels. You've been able to have, you know, of course, I mean, it's a tragedy what happened. But if you go into Dubrovnik Old Town, there's a lot of space actually, you know. So what we do here is where we are promoting space. You know, we are promoting, that is our luxury, promoting space, promoting an active lifestyle. So that is something which I believe comes and came now way more into the focus for the future traveler. You know, they want to go back to nature, so to speak. You know, they want to be outside. They want to feel the space. You know, that is all of a sudden something which you cannot hug and touch, but gives you a feeling of safety and security as well, to be close to nature and to smell this lavender and to smell this tree, what is actually right in front of you. That became way more important potentially. We can see it here at least, than other things which used to be important. So that is something we have to focus on, I believe, all of us. And is something which we need to promote in the outside world, that this region stands for nature and for the beauty of not only our hotels, but actually for everything what is just right in front of us. There's one more thing which I think is very important. I can see it a lot. And of course, we do all of this. There's a lot of preventive measures in place for hygiene and for cleanliness in the hotel. I would like to point out that cleanliness has always been an utmost priority for all hospitality businesses. Yes, of course, we have additional protocols in place because of the situation we are all in, but every hotel has to be a clean place. It used to be a clean place in the past, it's a clean place today, it will be a clean place tomorrow. What we have to focus on, I think all of us, is having a positive attitude, a positive mindset, looking into the future, and adopting our businesses, as mentioned, with a different planning, but also with a different offering, to give the guests what they are looking for when they are coming to us. And then, in our case, I strongly believe a lot of that, why they are coming, is actually outside. You know, is the nature, is the beauty of our area, and of course, all the amenities we are having here in the hotel, striving for service excellence.
Yes, at the end, even though Corona was quite, I mean, obviously a negative thing, we hope that we can have some betterment and some improvements in our behavior in the future. So I would like to set the final question that we have for today, and that's the question of education. As you graduated from Cornell, that's a prestigious hospitality school. Do you think that, what do you think about formal education nowadays? And do you think it's crucial for hospitality professionals, even though at the other hand, we do have experience and it still matters, of course, on the other hand, but education is first, and does it still need to be implemented, and why?
Look, I believe that education is incredibly important. Yeah? To give you my experience personally, when I started my hotel career in Germany, we have like an apprenticeship program, which basically gives you in 3 years an insight to every department. You have to work 3 months in front office, you have to work 3 months in accounting, 3 months in banqueting, 6 months in the restaurant, 5 months here. So basically, depending on the hotel where you do that apprenticeship, and it's only one hotel, you get a very deep practical insight of the hotel business. And you have every 2 or 3 months, depending in which county it is, also theory, meaning you go to the school either once a week, twice a week, or every 4 or 8 weeks for 1 month or for 2 months, for example. I found it very important to have the theoretic knowledge of what actually is happening when you work in the hotel. More so when it comes to a university and studying hospitality management or tourism and the likes, to understand the processes much better from the very beginning of a career and from the very beginning of stepping a foot into a hotel. So yes, I think it's very, very important also to understand the processes in a business level, to understand what has to be done in order to make it happen. So I think it's now actually more important than ever to have also the knowledge from studies to understand how our hospitality business should develop in the future.
Fantastic. Maybe can I jump in here? Thank you, Jan, for this wealth of knowledge that you shared with us that we will be processing for some time. We will be looking at watching this interview many times over, I'm sure. I wanted to ask you, just as a follow-up on this question. Recently, we have seen new properties developed on the eastern side of the Adriatic, from Istria all the way to Montenegro. And we see that some of these hotels are extremely complex, with multiple restaurants, beautiful facilities, immersive architecture, spa centers, whatnot. All of these beautiful, beautiful state-of-the-art technologies and artisanship was invested and implemented in these properties. And yet we hear from hospitality professionals, and we also hear from reviewers, journalists, we hear that it's easier to build a facility than to build a qualified workforce, because some of the concepts that you've talked about, such as transformative experiences, such as mindfulness, such as complex service systems and all of those, these concepts are extremely abstract. And first to grasp, then to manage, let alone to develop and innovate. And at the same time, there is an enormous communication and cultural complexity going on, while everything is moving high speed. So I wanted to ask you, where do we find workforce? How do we make these complex operations work?
Okay, first, I think that a lot of hotels which are being built are lacking in identity. You know, so the storytelling, what we spoke before about, what I think, you know, Mindful Luxury and the Maslina Resort, for example, or here ourselves have done in a very different approach, is lacking. And yes, I agree with you. The building facilities seems to be rather simple. Finding workforce seems to be way more difficult, which generally speaking is absolutely correct. Also, we have challenges finding workforce. However, I would like to point out as well that you know, we need to look into this topic a bit deeper. So why actually do we have trouble finding workforce? What is the reason for it? You know, is it a salary issue? Is it a development issue? Can we give full year employment? You know, so there comes a lot of points come into this occasion to understand actually what is happening. I think it is incredibly important to develop team members once you found and identified team members, and to give them and to show them a future and to show them a development and to show them that you can stay with us, you can learn. This is a process, and you will see that you will enjoy this journey, that we together will enjoy this journey. I think that is very, very important, and I believe that our business, tourism in general, is needs to catch up here. Similar to the technology, what we spoke before has to be, of course, seamless, but we have to show that there is a future. And of course, there's always a lot talk about compensation. Compensation is very important. If you don't give the compensation, we have to look in different ways. Meaning different ways can be very well as well. That like we had on the Croatian coast before recently, and now again with quotas, we had a lot of dear colleagues and team members from neighboring countries. Now, actually, last year I saw colleagues from even far, far away coming to Croatia to work, as an example, and coming to Montenegro to work. But this is only related and only and purely related to compensation. There's no other reason for that. But when we see and when we can show that, for example, we want to offer our guests a certain service excellence, we want to offer our guests a certain level of service, we want to offer our guests this luxury of a colleague remembering 3 weeks ago, remembering 1 year ago, remembering 2 years ago. So the turnover of personnel needs to be dramatically reduced as well in that manner. That means as well that we not only need to talk about compensation, but we need to talk about development. And that is something which is very much on our mind here. If we can show that our team members have a future here, that we are looking into educating and developing and training further, and giving also the acknowledgement of what is being achieved together, then I think workforce can be retained much longer and can stay much longer. We have now, the service excellence we have here, for example, was on a different level in year 1 when we opened in the mid of the season than it is today. So we actually have a relatively small turnover compared to business average. But this is also because we put an incredible effort in keeping talent, in developing talent, and in showing a way where we can develop together as a business, but also individually. And if you can transform this passion and if you can show the way, then I think you can find also talented workforce and also talented workforce locally and regionally. But I agree 100%. It is a challenge in our region in particular to find workforce. But we as businesses, not only we as a Chedi, we as businesses need also to think and ask ourselves, do we actually offer everything what we need to offer in order to de-stress the situation?
Okay, so this is obviously another target for sustainability, right? Just
Yes,
as we
absolutely.
develop destinations or companies, workforce must be built, and it cannot be built overnight, obviously.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you so much. This was such a blast and such a joy. I must say that you bring such passion and nice energy, almost bliss when you talk. So we are definitely moved with your sharing. And I don't know about Nera, but I'm definitely coming to see you too.
Please, anytime,
Right.
really.
I'll, okay.
Of course, by any chance.
I'd like to. I would like to thank you both for Nera for doing a masterful interview conducting, and Jan, again, thank you so much.
No, thank you for having me. Really enjoyed it and hope to stay in touch. And as mentioned, please get in touch also when you would like to come down and spend some time here. It would be my honor and my pleasure to show you also in live what we have done here.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
This is
Thank
the
you.
end
Thank
of
you,
our
guys.
conversation. Okay, I will stop recording now. Jan, this was such a blast. I'm not exaggerating. This is like really